At that time, right around, I guess, life forms or whatever, like if Tom mentioned going back to Blink, like, did you think it would ever happen, or did you truly think that chapter of his life was just done?
I always thought that at some point it would happen. I just did not think that it would be as soon as it was. And obviously the catalyst for that was, Mark, with Mark's cancer situation. And I think that really hit Tom like hard, like, whoa.
Yeah.
Um and I mean, he would talk with Mark like every day since Mark said anything to him. And I thought that was really cool because end of the day, you're friends first and you have to be friends first. And I think that's the first thing that gets thrown out of the window when what you have kind of becomes your career, your occupation, and people have different wants and needs out of what they want to do. And it was kind of cool that they started kind of rediscovering that. And one of Tom's promises to Mark is like, "Hey, you got to beat this. You're gonna beat it. You're gonna be positive because when you're clear with this, we're gonna make the best record ever."
Mm.
And Mark's like, "Oh, I'm gonna hold you to that." And he's like, "Dude, I'd be honored." And that's how that kind of like ended up going, and that was kind of like the genesis of Blink 4.0 now.
Yeah. How do you get notified of this? Is this a random text from Tom one day? Hey, rejoining Blink, need you, buddy. How does that play out in real life?
It was, yeah, I just dropped off my girls at school and he called me. He's like, "Hey, what are you doing today?" And I'm like, "Probably gonna go down and mix some stuff." Because at that we were working on Monsters of California,
Mm.
the soundtrack during that time. And so I was like, "Yeah, probably working on soundtrack stuff." I go, "Why?" He's like, "Well, I think Blink's getting back together and we've gotten together twice now to kind of work on songs, and I got some tracks and I kind of want to re-record some stuff and work on stuff." And I was like, "Awesome. Like, yeah, I'll be right there."
Yeah.
And that's oddly how it goes with me and Tom. Like, we don't have a set schedule. I usually just wake up to a text saying 10 a.m. and it's like, okay, it doesn't matter what we're working on or whatever. It's just if I have a text from Tom that says 10 a.m., it's like I'm there.
And is this something now? He's shown pictures of, what looks like his new at-home studio or whatever. But I mean, is that your working environment for you two? You run over there and it's at Tom's crib?
That's where we do all of his. I mean, at this point, we weren't even there yet.
Mm.
We were. He was kind of like in this in between from when he moved out from the house that he had with Jen and all that stuff, and he had been bought this property and he's rebuilding the house and took forever, and especially with COVID and all the permitting and all that stuff, we were just kind of like in this. It was kind of like two. It's kind of like two like townhomes on top of each other.
Mm.
So he lived in the top one, and in the bottom one, it was like a full-on uh 3-bedroom like apartment type thing,
Mm.
or 2-bedroom apartment. And so that was the studio. And so the studio was actually in what would be the master bedroom, but but it was cement like cement flooring, brick walls. Like, it was like the worst environment for sound ever. Like, we'd be recording stuff, and then I'd listen to stuff on the way back home, and I'd be like, God, this sounds so bad. It's not what it sounds like in there. So it was always the worst situation in that place. And we actually started the Blink record there, and worked probably till about August or July or August of 2022 there. We started the Blink stuff in January of 2022.
Was that stuff that he had ideas sitting prior, or is it like Blink's back together, we're starting fresh, here's the ideas, let's get it rolling?
Yeah, so what they would do is plan on meeting every other week, and they would get together at Travis's studio for 2-3 days, write some songs, record basic tracks, almost like demos. But then Travis would keep on working on drum stuff at his place. Mark would go back to his place and work out bass lines and vocals and whatnot. And Tom would go back to his. Everybody would go back to their own headquarters and kind of like work on the songs and whatnot. And then later that started bringing ideas to the table as well. Like, but there was nothing that was written, with the exception of Terrified, before that these sessions.